Boom. How about now? Is there sound now? I'm gonna wait for Ultimate Sunrise to tell me if there's sound here. How about now? Oh gosh. See, for first live stream, guys. Bear with me. Okay, cool. Boom. Yes. All right. So, like I was saying, I apologize. First live stream, we're figuring this out. I think I actually know why that was. Anyway. All right. Yeah. Ultimate Sunrise. Looks like it. You know what? I think it's just me and you, brother. So, interested after the Avi interview. Thank you, man. Yeah, that was a great interview. Avi Loeb. I got like a 20-second delay, just FYI. So, you know, the best I can do to get the best quality here. Yeah, man. Thanks. Great interview with Avi Loeb. Have a great one with Nick Pope you should check out. And then another interview that's coming out soon with Mick West. So we're trying to get all sides here. I know some people don't particularly like him, but we had a great interview. So anyway, let's jump in. I'm going to talk about Senator Gillibrand and some recent comments she made. I'm going to talk about David Grusch and his resume and Ken Klippenstein and all that. Some different stories and an update on Avi Loeb and his sphericals that he got. So let's just take a look. Let's jump in, guys. I don't want to waste any more time here. So, yeah, so Senator Gillibrand, for those of you that don't know, has been kind of a leading voice, right, in Congress with hearings and trying to get all this covered. So, right, she, I guess I don't know what kind of function this is. It looks like some sort of like fundraising function, right? Just sitting out, I mean, literally on a porch in the South, like drinking iced tea. So I don't know. I mean, you know, I feel before I play the clip, like I think comments like that should be taken with a grain of salt. They're kind of off the cuff. You may or may not mean them. I don't know. But with that said, her words do have power. So let's take a listen.
I started meeting with pilots, and pilots were very upset because they kept running into these drones and other aircraft that they were really worried that they would crash into. And they kept giving the DOD the data, the videos, the information, and saying, what's going on? This is a UAP. You got to do something about it. Whose is it? What is it? And in some instances, they retaliated against the service members, the pilots, and said, you know, you're just crazy about aliens, and, you know, we're not going to take you seriously anymore. And it ruined their careers. Well, I was chair of the personnel subcommittee, and I said, that's not acceptable. These are men and women who are serving bravely for our country, and they're just reporting what they see. You need to look at it. And
so far, so good, right? So far, so good. That's basically the same idea we've had about her. But this is where it potentially starts to take a turn.
Analyze it and figure out whose it is. Well, we set up the office 3 years ago, and we fully funded it in the defense bill. And this is fascinating because we don't know who's making these types of aircraft. I'm sure some of it's China. I'm sure some of it's Russia, and I'm sure some of it's Iran. They are at the forefront of drone technology. We already know one weather balloon was Chinese, and they're spying. They're spying on our bases, on our nuclear sites, and overhead. So I made this office. I created it. It's up and running. I made sure the DOD, we fully funded it because they didn't even want to fund it. And we will get to the bottom of it. But did anybody watch the hearings last week? We had some strange testimony. We had some pilots say, you know,
I mean, you can already hear the giggles and the smiles and the laughs. Now, granted, if we pull emotion out of this, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, again, are people feeling uncomfortable? They're kind of just laughing because everyone else is kind of laughing. Are they laughing at the situation and the hearings and the people, or just kind of, I don't know, right? I mean, it's a lot to take in. So I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt. Ultimate Sunrise says, Gary Nolan was talking about pilots having run-ins with UAP UFOs having TBIs. TBIs. What is that? TBIs. Why do I feel like I know what that is? So please put that. I'm going to continue the clip here.
Saw this craft. It's a Tic Tac. Here's the video. It had strange flying patterns. We don't understand what it was. Those pilots should not be discriminated against. That information's there. And then the second guy, I think, was in Navy intelligence, and he said, well, I was in charge of looking at all the existing UAP programs, and I talked to everybody I could and found out what I could. And I talked to a bunch of people who said, not only do we have a program, but it's super secret, and we have dead aliens, and we have crashed aircraft. What? I don't know what this is.
I mean, there's the laughs again. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Traumatic brain injury, Ultimate Sunrise says. Correct. Yes. I mean, lots of people having effects from run-ins, right, and experiences, not just brain injuries, radiation, right? What was that? The Havana syndrome that Gary Nolan also investigated. So, yeah, I mean, yes. Great addition. All right, yeah. So again, here they are. They're kind of laughing. I mean, look at these guys in the background here. They're really getting a kick out of all this. But again, privately, I bet if you talk to them, they'd probably be like, "Yeah, I do believe in that. You know, there's something there, whatever." I think people just kind of are. It's the South, man. I'm in the South. I'm in Texas, and people just kind of do this sort of stuff publicly. I don't know if I would take it like. Let's continue. Let's see.
They will not tell me about it. I cannot get to the bottom of it. I cannot get any data and information. So we don't know if it exists. We don't know if that's real. Those individuals will have to testify in front of the Aero office. So far, whistleblowers have been reluctant to testify to the Aero office because it's part of the Department of Defense.
Okay, well, there you go, Senator. See, right, his smirk's going away. Look at that. Because it's getting... That's where the seriousness is, right? So this I can tell it's just kind of with the flow of it. This guy, forget this guy. Okay? He's like, who knows? Forget that guy. Okay, so she's saying they need to testify to Aero. What are we talking about? I thought that already happened. This is where, this gets interesting, right? This is where the back and forth is on who's telling the truth, right? Because you have some people saying... David Grusch, even right in the News Nation interview, I talked to Sean Kirkpatrick. Now, granted, he did say Sean Kirkpatrick and not Aero. So does that mean he spoke to him privately and he hasn't in front of Aero in an official capacity? I don't know. Should they? Yeah. Are they afraid to because of other things? Yeah, I could see that. I mean, she just said these whistleblowers are a little concerned about going to testify. I wonder why. Aero is kind of all over the place, right? So, I mean, we did a piece on him in one of our episodes, our last episodes. Check that out. Episode 3, our first part of our interview with Avi Loeb. Anyway, yeah, he kind of went back on what he kind of clearances he had and then saying he need more clearances and then saying he had all the clearances. Didn't make any sense. Anyway, yes, Ultimate Sunrise says laughter is typical reaction to discomfort. Exactly. So it's hard to take laughter as like they're just uncomfortable with what's being talked about. I agree completely. So I'm not really worried about the laughter or anything. I'm really focused on the senator's words. Right? That's really all that matters. Forget everything around it.
They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of lots of things that they cannot come forward. So we made sure in the Aero provisions that it has a whistleblower protection. We made sure that if you sign a non-disclosure agreement that you can come forward and share your testimony. But how many people saw Oppenheimer? Okay, so Oppenheimer is about developing the bomb during World War II. And all those scientists who worked on that project had to sign non-disclosure agreements. And what I've heard about those non-disclosure agreements is that because it was wartime, it had provisions that said, including if you disclose under penalty of death. And so the big worry is that people who sign non-disclosure agreements to work on any type of program for the military, that it had language in there that made them think that was true. So there's a lot of fear. And so I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it. I don't know if we'll ever get the information about special access programs that are need to know only.
That's interesting. So she's comparing it to the Oppenheimer NDAs, right? Penalty of death. Yes. Of course, that would scare anybody. What the hell? I don't care how life-changing or reality-shattering the thing you're working on or a part of or you think it is or whatever. If your own life is at stake, that is going to matter. It's literally just a human instinct, right, to preserve our life at all cost, right? So yeah, that is a totally reasonable thing to assume, and just to say, oh well, we created this office and passed this act, and that'll protect you. What are you talking about? That offers zero protection to whistleblowers, in my opinion. If I'm a whistleblower, I'm like, what does that mean? That doesn't mean they're not going to try to come kill me. Like, you know what I mean? I think there needs to be a better protection process or facility even they go stay. I don't know. Maybe they're offered like Secret Service protection, right, to some extent for a particular period of time. Something like that. That would make me feel comfortable as a whistleblower. Not just we pass some stuff, you'll be okay, come on in, talk to us. It's kind of lame, in my opinion. I don't know. What do y'all think? That seems very lame to me.
That Congress is not read in on. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. I put a provision in the defense bill this year that said you can't fund any special access programs if you don't come through Congress.
Okay. This lady's kind of pissing me off here. Okay, she's just like, well, I did this, and I put a provision in there. You can't get special access program without going through Congress. That's the whole point, lady. That's why these whistleblowers are coming out. They're saying they're bypassing all of this. How? I don't know. There's many theories on that. David Grusch obviously knows, and these whistleblowers know. But this is the problem, right? This is all for public image, right? In a lot of ways, for PR and public relations. The more I'm watching this, I'm getting perturbed, guys. I apologize. I really wanted to take this from a reasonable approach, but as I'm just sitting here processing this, I'm seeing this is just so not reasonable for these whistleblowers. It really isn't. It's not fair. And we're about to get into why they don't think it's fair. We're about to get into the Ken Klippenstein stuff. Anyway, let's just listen to the rest of this clip. There's 30 seconds left.
So that's one push. And then the other push is just trying to get these whistleblowers to talk to the guy who's head of Aero, who's very competent and very capable. The last way I'm going to try to find out is the way Aero is going to operate, because we keep seeing all these drones and weather balloons and spy balloons, is we're going to get better sensors. We're going to get better sensors on our aircraft, better sensors on our bases, better sensors at these nuclear sites. So whatever's flying around them, we know whose they are, because they're most likely adversarial. They're most likely Chinese. They're most likely Iranian, trying to get intelligence, trying to get data. And if it's not, we'll catch them. So we'll know what it is, whatever it is.
We'll know what it is, whatever it is. You just said we may never find out earlier, 30 seconds earlier. Again, this is all for show. Look around, okay? You got podium, you got mic stand, you got mic, you got a little monitor here. There's a group of people over here watching these schlubs. You know what I mean? Sorry, I don't know who they are. I don't want to say schlubs. But that guy kind of looks like George Knapp, doesn't he, in the back there? I don't think that is. If it is, I apologize. But this is all for show. I don't know. What's really happening behind the scenes. But real quick, Ultimate Sunrise says, in order for a whistleblower to get taxpayer-funded protection, they need more than testimony alone, in my opinion. I mean, that's a good point. I would argue, like, well, okay, yes, they come in and they provide right, all this evidence and all this stuff, and they're going, and testimony and all that, they can prove a credible threat against themselves. That seems reasonable, right? If they honestly, gosh, if they show an NDA that says I will die if I talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about this, I think that's reason enough to be like, well, we'll protect you, even if it's a small stint, at least while they testify, at least maybe during that process, right? It's a couple weeks or something, or whatever, maybe just during that time. I don't know. We waste money on so much stuff in America. We don't have money for that. I think we do. The Pentagon blessed Grusch, which also makes me sus on whether he's a stooge. That's an interesting point. Again, the government is not a monolithic entity, right? So if different parts of the government are sort of supporting Grusch or getting behind him, or in your words, blessing him, giving their blessing, right? Other parts are not, clearly, right? The same Pentagon that we're speaking of is more than likely who gave the tip to Ken Klippenstein to, hey, go look here. I'm not saying where to go look. I'm just saying where to go look. That's what they told him. And he admitted that in an interview. You know, is that a bad thing as a journalist? Not really. I don't know if we could fault Ken Klippenstein at this point, just moving on to a different thing. But, I mean, it is interesting. Again, when it comes to David Grusch, I think there should be no attacking till we know everything. That doesn't mean we should be putting him up like Jesus Christ either, like he's our Lord and Savior, right? Until we have all the facts. But attacking him and trying to discredit him and all, I don't see the point of that either, even if he is a quote-unquote stooge, because I really feel that he believes what he's saying, right? So he seems like a genuine guy who, had some issues. Who doesn't, man? Who doesn't have skeletons in their closet? Look, I worked in restaurants for years, okay? And chefs and line cooks and servers and bartenders and managers, everyone's got all kinds of problems, man. You be some drugs, alcohol, sex, you name it. It's like a rock and roll lifestyle. And, if people have problems in that industry, imagine being in David Grusch's position. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he came out great, and people do change. I know people who have changed, right, who have made those big changes. So I don't see that as anything bad against David Grusch, that he's had issues. If anything, again, it, like other people have said, it shows he took care of those issues. Yes, he had some problems, but he's still married to his wife, okay? They're still together. It wasn't enough for them to work through it, and all relationships have problems, right? They dealt with it, and here we are, All right, let's move on to this, next part here. I do want to quickly go over David Grusch's resume real quick, which I thought was kind of interesting, right? People were saying, like, certain way it was written, certain things that he put, certain designations, spacing, all this different stuff. Okay, people, listen. This is what was put on this website right here, okay, in a PDF, okay? And I linked to it in the description so you can see everything I'm looking at. The way he gave it to them doesn't mean that's necessarily the way they put it out, okay? So everyone needs to calm down with, like, criticizing David Grusch's resume, right? He gave them, and they then could have done something to it, transformed it to a PDF, which screwed some stuff up, right? And then they uploaded it. That's not his fault. Like, it's just crazy. People picking apart. Really, if that's all you have on the guy, you got nothing, in my opinion. If those are the straws you're pulling at, you got nothing. If anything, stick to his claims. That's it. Stick to his claims. He gave names, dates, places, whatever. You can physically go check if he's telling the truth or not. That's all we need to worry about. All our focus needs to be on that. So Ultimate Sunrise says, I'm just contemplating on if it was Grusch going to the Pentagon or vice versa. I see what you're saying. Did he go or did they invite him? What do you mean exactly? Like to investigate UAPs, or do you mean afterwards when he was going to whistleblow? Let me know. Ultimate. Hope I can call you that, Ultimate. So anyway, these documents, don't take all this stuff with the resume and all that so seriously, okay? Like, all of that could have been screwed with when he gave it to the offices here, right? Staff working on it, and they got to upload it all and get it all ready in PDF form and have it all look similar. I guarantee you they took all of it in and copy, pasted, did different stuff. They maybe even changed stuff for him. So don't blame him. Okay, let's get to this interview real quick with Ken Klippenstein. So this is I put the clip up on our site, and we're just going to kind of go over different parts of this interview.
Accusations are flying as journalists.
So again, Ken Klippenstein, he wrote an article in the Debrief, sort of releasing David Grusch's medical records. At the time, that's what was stated. Later, it was clarified that he did receive them through a Freedom of Information Act. Now, that's not the juicy part of the story. The juicy part of the story is how he knew what to ask for in the Freedom of Information Act, right? And where to go get it. I mean, it's a needle in a haystack, right? So that's really the juicy part. So anyway, he writes this article, and it states some different stuff about David Grusch: PTSD, alcoholism, 911 calls, suicide attempts, right? His wife involved. Now, no physical violence, nothing like that, nothing mentioned. Now, he retained his security clearance through all of this. It was all PTSD. He had a friend that committed suicide, and he had to deal with it, and it was just a lot for him. But he took care of it, and he was better, and he moved on, and he, no issues, right? So something a lot of soldiers go through. And typically, we're a lot more compassionate when we hear this about soldiers, but for some reason, in this case, some people just want to attack them for it, which is crazy to me, right? Like, what if a soldier was in a battle and Benghazi, let's just say, for instance, right, or Afghanistan, hey, yeah, pick him, has an experience, comes back, has PTSD, but is telling a story that actually happens, right? Doesn't take away from what happened to him and the truth and the thing, you know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, and I think Ken Klippenstein, if you follow him like on Twitter and stuff, his background, he doesn't believe in this stuff. He thinks it's all a joke. He laughs at it. So he's kind of smug about it. And I got to be honest, Sagar here, Crystal and Sagar, if you don't watch them, they do political stuff, but Sagar's really into UFOs. So they've been covering it, and they were able to get him on the show because of that. Their pull in Washington. So in their bigger channel. Anyway, great team. And Sagar really gives it to him, man. I interviewed Sagar one time on my other podcast, the Lone Star Plate, back during the 2020 election. Great guy. He's from Texas too. And anyway, yeah, really gives it to him. So look, let's just start the clip and get this going. Oh, you know what? Real quick, Ultimate Sunrise has responded. Oh, he said, "My name's John, LOL." Okay, John, sorry. Did they go to him to be a spokesperson, whistleblower? Okay. See, I get you. Or did he make his report complaint and the Pentagon gave him permission to come forward? Has he said who exactly he's scared of, government, private sector, both? Okay, so yes. Okay. I may be wrong. Correct me if anyone else is watching and listening about this. I'm going to help John here. So as far as I know, they didn't go to him to be a whistleblower. He felt that the stuff wasn't getting out, so he decided to blow the whistle. Right? He filed a whistleblower complaint and went through the process. I don't think the Pentagon would invite you to be a whistleblower, but I get what you're saying, like privately, like some sort of counterintelligence thing. I mean, that would mean that he's in on it because he wouldn't just fall for, hey, come be a whistleblower for it, right? He would have to be in on it, in my opinion. I don't see that as being the case. But, look, I don't know anything until we have the actual evidence, right? It's all speculation. But did he make his report complaint and the Pentagon gave him permission to come forward? That's actually what happened, right? And not that they gave him permission to come forward. He had to submit what he was going to talk about, and they basically gave him permission to. But that didn't mean that it was truthful or not, right? It was just an office that in the government that lots of people with security clearances do when they're going to write a book or they're part of a movie or they're going to speak or release some sort of content out into the world that they may profit from. Maybe they're going to go on the news or something. I don't know. They have to have permission to talk about certain stuff. So that's what he did. He got permission. They said, yes, you can talk about it. But again, it doesn't mean that it's true or not. And there were certain things he said he couldn't talk about. Who exactly he's scared of? He's mentioned within the government, like the government coming after him. And he said that in the UFO hearings, like it's people within the government. I'm sure private sector as well. I mean, he made some ominous statements about the stuff he saw with his wife was disturbing. And I remember during the hearing thinking, well, was that in response to you or to something that like an alien did to somebody and you saw that? I don't know. If somebody knows, let me know in the comments. But yeah, let's jump in on this clip with Ken Klippenstein.
Ken Klippenstein has published a new report for The Intercept saying UFO whistleblower Dave Grusch, who recently testified before the House Oversight Committee, was at one point referred to a mental health institution following 2 911 calls from his wife in what Grusch says is a PTSD-related alcoholic incident. Grusch and his associates initially accused the intelligence community of leaking non-public health records to Klippenstein, who has since revealed he in fact retained access to this information by Freedom of Information Act requests. Resulting dramas got both sides. They're accusing the other of not telling the truth to the public about the situation. So we've got Ken Klippenstein himself in the studio now. Join us defending his story. It's good to see you, Ken. Thanks for joining.
What do you think of that intro right in front of him, right? Like, that's an interesting position to be in when you do an introduction about somebody in front of that person, which happens a lot on like late night cable news and all this stuff, you know? And I've had to do it on on my other podcast, my main podcast that I do, the Lone Star Plate, with them there. And I stopped doing it because it felt awkward. So I always would record the intro separately. So it's interesting that they do it, because look at Ken. He's just like, okay. Because, right, that sets the playing field for what you're about to jump into. Now, Sagar did a great job. That's it. Because now he kind of has a look like, yeah, I look like an asshole right now, right? Look at him. That's the I look like an asshole face. And to be honest, and nothing against him. And look, I don't wear suits very often either, but I used to for a long time. This guy does not wear suits very often. I can just tell this guy pulled this suit out from I don't know where to get this on. Might have even borrowed it. Nothing against him, but just saying. If we're pointing out the stuff that doesn't mean anything, right, Ken? That's what he's doing with David Grusch. What? I'm just putting it out there. Why not? All right, let's get into it.
Thanks for coming in, Ken.
Great to be back with you guys.
All right, Ken. So let's get into the nitty-gritty, I guess, of the story itself. Let's start broad strokes. What is the story about? What is it?
Well, so he's kind of the star witness of the subcommittee that's looking at the UFO allegations. Not just him, but there are 2 pilots as well. And so in the reporting on it, I noticed a phrase popping up again and again: a decorated war hero, decorated war hero, decorated war hero. And I'm not disputing that he is, but when I hear that, it's kind of like, okay, well, where's the critique? Like, where's the negative side, or where's the vetting? And I didn't see any of that by any of the media.
Vetting. No, he's not talking about our show. What an interesting point. So his thing is like, I'm seeing decorated war hero, decorated. And your first instinct is, well, where's the critique of this decorated war hero? Really? Jesus, man. I mean, that says a lot about him. That's an interesting take, right? Think about that. It's like, oh, here on the news, we have the firefighter just saved 27 babies in this burning building behind us. Sir, what do you have to say? Ken Klippenstein sitting at home going, yeah, but where's the critique of that firefighter? Right, why didn't he save 35 babies? Like, I don't know. That's ridiculous. Honestly, it's bullshit. He's making it up. That's a lie. That's not why he decided to look into this. Lie number 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I thought, well, I'm going to go and look and see what I can find. And so I know people both in DOD, in the intelligence community, and I did a call for tips to try to broaden the picture. It really just came from a mosaic of different sources that gave me ideas of what was going on. We can talk about that more. But really my motive was just, it didn't feel like anybody was vetting this guy.
So,
it didn't feel like anybody was vetting this guy. What are you talking about? I mean, honestly, that's an insult to the journalist who published his article in the debrief, and to Ross Coulthart, who did the News Nation interview. You're basically saying that those guys did no work to set up that interview, right? That's what you're saying. That's what you're implying. And that is incorrect. Like, factually incorrect. You know, demonstrably incorrect. Wow. So I have a video about David Grusch. Let me fill you in on David Grusch on our vetted YouTube channel. Check that out. And in it, I show a good portion of why they believe David Grusch is telling the truth, from the mouth of Ross Coulthart talking with on the Need to Know podcast, and Leslie Kane. Okay, both of them talking about it. This isn't just like they got an email and just threw this guy up there. I mean, again, these things that Ken Klippenstein is saying right now he's lying. He's making this stuff up because the real reason to protect the real reason of why he did this, right? Which, honestly, just come out and say that. He doesn't think it's true. He thinks it's bullshit, and he wants to put an end to it, right? It's misinformation to him. That's why. Not, well, I saw Decorated War Hero, and I thought, well, this needs a little more investigating. That's not, what are you talking about, right? All these different sources told him what to do, right? They're saying, hey, go look here. You'll find this. We think this is bullshit.
Lay out the specifics of the story and what you found through your FOIA request.
So under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, you can request police records. They're called call detail records.
John says, seriously, what the fuck is he talking about? Exactly, John. What the fuck is he talking about? I mean, again, he's nervous. His suit is all put together. Like, this guy is lying through his teeth about his reasons for doing it. And he hasn't had to confront this. And most journalists don't who put this together. I mean, I don't have to explain my reasons for the videos I make. Most creators or journalists, or, whatever, you don't have to, right? So this is an interesting dynamic that's happening right now. It's that John said if he was lying, he would have a show on Gaia by now. Yeah. Correct. That is hilarious. And yes, John, I'd love to be a fly on the wall on those skiffs after the hearings as well, which, to be honest, just in any skiff with those UFO hearings, but I don't know if those happened after the UFO hearing. I believe they didn't happen because it was shot down that David Grusch didn't have his clearance, and then it turned out he did have his clearance. So, again, a lot of funny stuff in this. If there's no fire here, why is there so much smoke, man? That's what's disturbing about this. The more you dig deeper, it's like, yeah, okay, but why are they doing this stuff? If he's lying, why is this? I mean, they lie as well. Like, anyway, yes. All right, let's continue.
CADs, obscure things that aren't kind of like the typical police report that journalists tend to ask for. And maybe that's how they didn't know it existed. I have some practice with FOIA. I've been doing this a long time. So when I got these back.
You have some practice with FOIA? You've been doing this a long time? What are you saying? Leslie Kane, Ralph Blumenthal, and Ross Coulthard have not been doing this a long time, dude? What are you talking about? I mean, dude, the dude from the Black Vault, that guy's got practice doing FOIA requests, bro. Don't even try to flex our homeboy. Like, dude, this guy, Ken Klippenstein, is just not rubbing me the right way, man. He's just very disingenuous. Everything's popping off for me. Red flags, BS meter. I'm just not feeling it with this guy. Same. He said, same. Most of those politicians look like they couldn't be less interested. I don't know. During the hearings, you mean? I don't know. I disagree. I think during the hearings, a lot of them were interested. There was a couple, but I think they were interested. Now, maybe not for the reasons we want them to be, but they were interested. They know there's something going on. They know it. And that's the thing with all of this. There's something going on. All right, let's continue here. This douchebag. Sorry, pardon my language.
It was 2 different incidents reported by his wife and previous wife in which he had gone, in the second case that was in 2018, I think, he had gone into it's described as like an angry, drunken rage where he was suicidal, asked his wife to kill him. She called police, said that the guns were locked up, and then he was placed in a mental facility where after he was assessed and then released, I think, a day later.
Got it. And this happened 2014.
A day later, y'all. Released a day later, allowed to keep his security clearance. Obviously, the government looked into this and decided, this happens to a lot of people who serve, okay? So, John says, I don't think the skiff sessions happened, though. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think they happened either. which, I mean, I know they didn't happen. Yeah, that's sad. Now, maybe they happened. They didn't tell us. I mean, maybe that's, honestly, if I was them, that's what I would do. Like, I might do that if I was them. For David Grusch and, like, Tim Burchett and, right, Representative Luna, like, honestly, that might be their best bet, would be a little bit of distraction to tell the public we haven't done this stuff, to maybe get the Pentagon not thinking you have, but secretly you are doing these skiffs, you know. I don't know. That actually would be a smart move. Yeah. All right, let's continue.
2018.
Both. Yeah.
Okay. So there's been a lot of back and forth. Grusch accused you of getting these things leaked by the intelligence community. You revealed it came from the Freedom of Information Act. You did a Twitter space last night. You indicated you were tipped off by this. So were you tipped off by members of the intelligence community?
It was both the Defense Department. I mean, again, it's a mosaic. You
Okay, here he goes. Hang on, Sagar, get him.
talk to as many people as you can because you don't want to be dependent on any one individual who might have a grudge or whatever it is. But yes, I did talk to both DOD people and intelligence people.
So in terms of the substance of the tip here, the accusation, I mean, aren't they fundamentally correct that, like, you are publishing dirt that was tipped to you
Yeah,
by intelligence community?
exactly. It's like, you know, he basically was like, no, that's not what happened. I did this Freedom of Information Act. It's a technicality. Okay, it's semantics, right? He did get tipped dirt and he published it. He got the proof of the dirt from the Freedom of Information Act, but the tip about the dirt, right, had nothing to do with it. That's what instigated this whole thing, right? That's the whole point of this. That's the juicy part of this.
Well, the thing is, when I put out my call for tips, I said, if you have anything positive or negative,
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, like, I don't want to, you know, he's a human being. I don't, to be candid with you guys so people can account for where I'm coming from, I don't believe in the UFO stuff. I think he's incorrect about it. However, I don't want to just punch at him. I would have included anything positive that I'd gotten. Unfortunately, I didn't get anything. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have, you know, redeeming qualities. Everybody does, even me. So
That doesn't mean he doesn't have redeeming qualities. There you go. This guy has zero respect for David Grusch. He thinks what he's saying is bullshit, so now he's going to work his way backwards to find anything that he thinks would help dissuade anyone else from believing in him. Right? That's his tactic, which is an unusual tactic for a journalist to take. That's not his job as a journalist. Right? His job is to tell stories. Tell facts as they happen. Like, is it an opinion? Right, this is a vendetta he's got. And he's literally a mouthpiece for these DOD people. They are using him. Right? And he's taking the brunt because they're private sources. So they're just sitting there like, got another one. I mean, they can literally twist these guys to do anything, which is kind of scary, which makes you think it can happen on the flip side. You know what I mean? So that's interesting. Let's continue.
but I just didn't happen to hear any of that, and so I had to go with.
Oh, real quick. Let me read a couple of these comments, guys. Sorry. John, Ultimate Sunrise says, yeah, I was a combat medic in the Army and worked with wounded warriors with serious issues. Oh, wow. Mad respect, brother. Mad respect. Never seen one go crazy about aliens. Yeah, right? Like, this is so... My dad was in the Air Force. Omaha, Nebraska, baby. That's where I was born. God, I know so many people in my family and military, and yeah, this is nuts. That leap is, honestly, it's a fucking slap in the face to veterans, right? This idea that if you have this issue from this thing we sent you to, you're a fucking fuck up for the rest of your life. Like, what the fuck, man? That's really kind of fucked up. Pardon my language here. I apologize. I mean that there's just no need to go there for veterans. Like, what do they do? I mean, God, veterans get the short end of the stick so much on this. Like, this guy, you would never see this guy on a battlefield doing anything, right? He's just a schmuck who doesn't know how to wear a suit. From the start, it appears he had an agenda to trash Grusch. Exactly, John. I agree. I concur. And I've sort of, in my opinion, proven it in the first just few minutes of this clip. his answers, are all bullshit about his reasoning, again, to protect his real agenda, which, to be honest, he could have just been open about that because that's what everyone thinks anyway. So just own it and come out and say that's why you're doing it, you know? Say what you want about, like, Stephen Greenstreet, right? At least he just owns it, comes out. I mean, you know where he stands. Look, I'd rather face a lion than face a lion in, you know, a mask, right? A wolf in sheep's clothing, right? I don't know why I used the lion. Right? You want to know who you're dealing with. That's a life lesson I've learned. But anyway, let's continue.
What, you know, I was told. And to give you guys a sense, too, I can speak to the characteristics of the sources because I understand why people are concerned about that because most of the reporting that you read is planted. When you go to the New York Times, most of those stories are planted by committee chairs, by the White House, whatever it is. That's not how I roll.
Okay. I'm sorry I keep stopping this, but everything this guy says is fucking stupid. He's insulting to every other person he's speaking about. Maybe he doesn't understand that that's what he's implying. But the New York Times, all these other places are publishing false stuff, but not me. That's not how I roll. But that's how these other journalists roll? What are you getting at, bro? What kind of claims are you making? This guy is not invited to the journalist, you know, roundtable, or he is to the other one, the rats, where the rats go. I'm not a fan of this guy. I don't mind people looking into the facts, right, and what's good, but this guy definitely has an agenda, man.
No, I tend to talk to mid-level people, people kind of like Grusch, GS-14s, GS-15s, people who are experienced but didn't quite have the political chops generally to make it to the top. So those are the types of people that I was talking to. Just full disclosure, if you want to ask anything else about sourcing, I'm happy to talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, you're being accused of, like, this is a smear job. You're trying to undermine his credibility. What did you see?
Boy, Crystal just said it, and then that's how you do it, man. See, when you're questioning, you say a statement, and then you jump to the question. Yeah, this is a smear campaign, man.
As the value of this information, do you think that the fact that he has a PTSD diagnosis makes him more likely to lie, make things up, and less credible in general?
No, absolutely not PTSD. But, you know, in the police reports, his wife called him an alcoholic and said that this happened repeatedly. That, I think, is a concern. I think that if someone's an alcoholic, yeah, that should be factored into your assessment of what their credibility is. But
but if it's alcohol related to PTSD, I mean, let's be serious. I mean, he in sworn testimony, he admits he had a problem with PTSD. He says it was, I mean, I'm assuming he's related to these alcoholic incidents. He got treatment per your own reporting. And all of the incidents he's now testified to, sworn testimony as well as a whistleblower, is post-treatment. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what is the value of this information being put forward? And to be clear, you didn't do anything wrong. You're doing your job. We get crazy tips from people all the time here. So I have no issue with the Freedom of Information Act, even if you did report it, even if you did get a tip from the intel community. I guess it comes down to, like, the framing and the substance of, like, what are we supposed to do with this information?
Exactly, Sagar. That's the question, right? And that's what everyone wants to know. That's what he's skirting around, right? That is it. What is the point of this? Like, why?
Well, I included in this story an example of the dozens of White House staffers who had their clearances revoked for smoking weed, including in states where it was legal.
Right.
Places where it's legal. So, like, this is part of the clearance process. And so, again, this whole focus on PTSD, and if it makes him not credible, that was never something I said. That was a focus that he made trying to get ahead of the story in the statement that he put out. My interest was always the alcoholism. And, I mean, I guess I feel as though there's some kind of grandstanding around this stuff, because the reality is, if you're going to, say, get a medical procedure, go see a surgeon, you find out he's an alcoholic, that's probably going to factor in your deciding somewhat, right?
Right. Well, I mean, is he an active alcoholic? Do you know that?
We know that from the reports his wife said he was.
Okay, in 2018.
Yes.
But we don't know anything since then.
No.
Bam. Okay, right there. Like that part. I've been waiting for that part to come up because I've watched that part so many times. That and look how he grabs his mug to go take a drink. He knows he just fucked up. He's literally accused him of being a current alcoholic. And if Sagar hadn't clarified with him, that was his position. Right? Because the truth is, he's no longer. If he was, he's no longer, right? So, but he made the implication that he is still an alcoholic, right? And Sagar corrected him. Well, he's not currently. Well, no, he was back then. So see, he's not trying to get the facts right, right? He's not. It is a smear job, as John says here, right? Exactly. John Ultimate Sunrise says, schmucks like him have zero idea what patriotism means and want to bitch about everything and contribute to nothing. I concur.
Right. So can you speak a little bit too, because part of the piece you talk about how, you know, in those instances you had White House staffers fired, that there is this, you know, very onerous procedure to get and maintain your security clearances. In this instance, you know, they knew about these police interactions and what had happened with regard to his wife at the time. They knew about the allegations of alcohol abuse, all of this stuff, and yet he was able to maintain his clearances. Do you read something nefarious into that, or is that an indication in his direction that, listen, they knew everything and they still thought that I was trustworthy enough to maintain these very high-level secret clearances?
That's what he said, and I think there's something to that, but there's also something of a boys' club. I don't mean in a gender way. I mean in like a senior-level people tend to look out for each other. I quoted someone as saying that, and that was the general frustration of multiple people that I talked to, was feeling like they described this guy as unreliable, and they were frustrated that this stuff that they knew about was not being accounted for, and they were seeing the descriptions I was describing before. Decorated hero, decorated hero. Right. They didn't feel like that was the whole story.
I guess what I'm confused.
That's interesting. So, So, I mean, he's kind of letting it out right here, right? That's his reasoning. These guys, he's relaying their frustrations. This story is about his source's frustrations. That's odd, right? That's an odd story to write. I just think that's odd. Now, he's saying, now I have something to say about the security clearance thing. So why some people might lose theirs and others not. Well, think about it. If you're some low-level schmuck and you screw up and you're smoking weed and you don't really know much, yeah, we're getting rid of your clearance. All right, but if you're someone like David Grusch who's established in this and you got this plethora of knowledge, like, yeah, we're going to work with you a little more on that. Why wouldn't he? That makes total sense. It's not a boys' club. It's like we don't want to retrain. All right, we're going to lose that asset that we have trained and built up and invested millions of dollars into. That's all that is. So it's not that some people are more important than others. It just comes down to this numbers game, really, right? So I guess if some people can't accept that, it is what it is. But if he's saying, if his sources are saying he's unreliable, why are these public sources, okay, people who publicly came out and put their name behind it, saying they validate David Grusch? They worked with him. He's a great guy. They stand up for him. He's super reliable. I mean, literally the complete opposite. And they were public about it. So I don't buy that.
You're telling me this, but you don't quote any of these people in the story. Everything, the only facts that you can really attest to in the story are FOIA, and obviously the tip. And again, zero issue with that. But don't you think that's the actual relevant part? I mean, why aren't you quoting people on background? People.
Exactly. None of this is in the story. Right?
Who work for him, you said he's unreliable. You're saying it here.
Great job, Sagar.
Obviously,
sure.
It's a public forum, but the way that it's being read, and I have to be honest with you, I respect your work, but you know, the assemblage of the facts here, it does kind of read as a smear job. You're basically like, he had a PTSD incident, or he says it's PTSD incident. He had 2 alcoholics. You quote 2 people who basically say, you know, he's full of it. You only quote 1 expert who says that the UFO hearing is a travesty. And I mean, one of the things I really don't understand is how many conversations we had about Pentagon spinning us, but you're credulously citing the explanation, the 1990s explanation on Roswell, and credulously quoting like Susan Go, who's the Pentagon spokesperson, who said that he's full of it. I mean, why should we believe these people? Do you understand what I'm saying? The assemblage of the facts in your story, yes, you're taking as like, this guy's a liar. That's
I think that's a good instinct. You don't want to side with the institutions, but I think you also don't want to reflexively oppose them. I'm not saying that you're doing that. I think that, you know, I have that tendency too. But again, these are not monoliths. The DOD, I'm not talking to the public affairs officer, I'm not talking to the senior executives. I generally try to go out and get a sense of like the mid-level kind of like rank and file people, because I think they tend to tell a more honest story. You talk to the politicals, and it's just
I agree with you. I think you're
You know
doing
what I
the
mean?
right thing. And
Right.
you always, and I've always, I've stood by a lot of your work, but I'm like, why aren't any of these people quoted then? Why aren't you quoting these people?
Well,
on background?
essentially, the reason that I did the FOIA was because they're kind of describing it as unreliable. I'm thinking, well, do I want to just use this sort of innuendo? Like, can I try to substantiate it? And if you look at the FOIA request, you can FOIA my FOIA, or I think I posted it too.
You did.
I asked for a whole range of things. So this idea that I was being pointed at one specific event, that's just not true. People were describing things to me. It sounds like there's certain themes. I go on Nexus, which journalists have, and so you can find their home address. The home address was not furnished to me, and then you can just file a FOIA, and I did it for like 7 years. And so that was what came back. So there's no sort of, like, so I guess my answer to your question, I'm not trying to be evasive. Like, I did talk to intelligence and DOD people, but the way in which that influences the reporting is a little bit more subtle than I think the discourse gives credit to. It's not like they're pointing you at one specific event. They give you a sense, and then you use that to go and use other methods to try to substantiate.
I don't want to belabor the point, but just so I'm clear in my head of kind of the timeline, you were seeing the coverage of this hearing.
Yes.
You took issue with the fact that, he made extraordinary claims, right? And they're secondhand claims, and he hasn't produced publicly any evidence outside of his own testimony, which was being backed up by his personal reputation and credibility. You're frustrated by the fact that there doesn't seem to be a vet on the other side. And then you reach out to your sources, or do they
so I talk to the guys that
help us understand the timeline?
All of the above. So there are people that I know in DOD and in Air Force that I figure probably know this guy. So I started asking them. They're telling me he's unreliable, and I think, okay, well, how can I find more? Because people have bits.
So yeah, so he's thinking, this is bullshit. I'm gonna dig in. What's going on? That's a great question by Crystal to ask that distinction, right? Who started the conversation? They reached out to him. He reached out. He's saying, he's kind of implying that he did it, but he also said all of the above. So it sounds like they reached out to him, and I guess he dug further. But again, it just has an agenda from the get-go to discredit this guy and get anything. And why did no one else pick up this story and run with it and push it everywhere, right? That also didn't happen. So, real quick, John from chat, Ultimate Sunrise says, so he's an alcoholic, gets sober, and realizes aliens are real and government has their tech and bodies. Is Fravor a meth head and was seeing a Tic Tac in the air? Yeah, exactly. Right? That does not make any sense, right? The alcohol has nothing to do with it. It just doesn't. The PTSD, it just has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. I totally agree. Again, he took care of the issue. Okay, we should be celebrating that. A lot of people don't get help. Look, I'm going to kind of jump to the end here so we can jump to another story. I think there's a good part here at the end.
So I assume he believes what he's saying. I'm not someone, I hate this word grifter. People throw this word around so loosely. It's like, how do you know someone's heart? You can't.
No,
right?
you can't.
So
I think it's fine to present the facts. Like I said, I'm just reading this story, and you're like, you only quote two people, Jack Murphy and then this other guy. You're citing Roswell credulously. No offense, but like, that's crazy. That's like citing the JFK record and saying that that's the definitive norm here. When I'm reading this, all I'm supposed to take away is like, all right, alcoholic, PTSD, guy's got mental health, two experts. You didn't present the other side. So do you see why people took an issue with it?
I understand.
Yeah.
To some extent, I'm in a position where it's like everyone is doing the decorated warrior, all this stuff. And it's kind of like, well, now my job is I have to try to give people stuff they haven't gotten.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be totally candid.
You can talking.
Maybe that's bad, but that's
right.
I'm just trying to give you an insight of my thought process of what it is.
Well, I think people can take away from this what they will, and at the very least, I think it helped me understand kind of where you're coming from. A lot of other people, like I said, have questions. People watch this show, and
whatever. He just says goodbye to him. But okay, so he was just trying to give the other side, guys. Don't you see? Ken Klippenstein, he's just a patriot, man. He's just trying to do his thing. He's just trying to give the other side. Please, this guy is just so full of shit. Pardon my language. Let's move on from that guy. I cannot take him anymore. I do want to talk about, very quickly, where is it? Avi Loeb, real quick. So we had an interview put out, our uncut interview of Avi Loeb. Check it out. It's on our channel. I interviewed him back in April. So this is before he went on his trip to Papua New Guinea, but we've sort of been staying up with it about this because he talked to me about that, this trip. And yeah, It's in 28 days. We'll know. That was on August 3rd. So sometime in September, beginning of September, or I guess at the very end, right? The 31st, we'll know if what he found is extraterrestrial. That's kind of interesting. I mean, people don't give Avi Loeb enough credit, I think. He gets lost in the mix a little bit. But I'm a real fan of his, and I follow his stuff. So I'm real curious about what he found. I mean, he said he was going to go find this stuff in the ocean, and he found it. That's kind of crazy. The odds of that were just very low. So, yeah, we'll find out if these fragments that he found from a 2014 crash, right? Papua New Guinea, little sphericals. He's having them tested, and we'll know if they're there's a picture of them right there. If they are extraterrestrial. That is that's kind of interesting. I mean, what would that mean, right? Like, then what? Yeah, it's extraterrestrial. Okay, now what? Like, would that mean that that is part of what our thing is, or what? That we're looking into, or what? I don't know. That's interesting. What do you guys think about that? Okay, so you guys may see there's a video floating around on Reddit and Twitter and, I mean, everywhere, right, about some satellite footage, okay, that's going around about the MH370 flight that disappeared, right? They're saying that there's this satellite footage that shows 3 orbs flying around the plane before, like, a flash struck it, like a lightning flash or something, and everything disappears, So some people say it's not fake. Some people do. There's a lot of Reddit threads on this, to be honest with you, digging deep. And I don't know. That's kind of interesting because Reddit's pretty good about, like, pointing stuff out as being bullshit eventually. Yes and no, right? But I don't know. It's kind of interesting. The footage is interesting for sure. Here's a little screen grab. And it shows 2 sides. Basically, there's this argument. It's like stereoscopic. That's what they're saying. Like 2 different satellites got 2 different angles, and it's brought together, right? And that it was relayed to this other satellite. That was also a part of this argument because they were saying, right, the details, the noise patterns, and how things matched up, that they were identical images, and that's impossible if they were coming from 2 different angles and whatever. I don't know. So a lot of people have done digging on this stuff. I don't know. You guys look into it. I don't know. What do y'all think? Is it weird? Is it is it real? Is the video real, or is that faked? If that's faked, I've seen, that's pretty good. What is it? I don't know. Is that the same plane? That's the issue to me. How do you prove that that's the exact same plane? So yeah, look, he wrote, this guy. Oh my God. This is a guy on Reddit. This has just been confirmed to be a real satellite video leak. Reddit is going insane right now. I'm shocked, actually. Yeah, that's true. That's what happens. So in the leaked footage, a plane is seen coming into view by a huge cloud on the left. As it continues its flight path, a small orb appears from the right and zooms past the craft before going up close near the wings. Soon it is joined by 2 more orbs, and the trio move in circular motion around the entire plane. When the plane approaches the cloud, a strong flash strikes. The plane, along with the 3 orbs, disappear in the sky. Okay, here we go. I'll play the video right here. Yeah, let's bring it up on Twitter here. There's no audio. I mean, that. Okay. Right here. This is odd. I'm sorry, but that's like so in unison. I don't know, man. That like, why is my BS meter going off here, right? Like, I guess my point is, what's the point of circling it like that? What is it doing? Why does it need to circle it like that? Why does it need to do all this movement around the thing? Okay. Oh. All right, that may be it. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think? Is that bullshit? Is that weird? Is that... It said, where did this occur? Again, this is, John, they're saying this is the flight MH... What was it? Oh, my gosh, I should know that by heart. I'm sorry. 370, yeah. MH370. It was a plane that disappeared a while back. And March 8th, 2014, it was a Malaysian Airlines flight. Went off radar, and 239 people never found. So, I mean, they never found the plane, nothing. And they're saying this is it. This is the plane, and this is what happened to it. You know. All right. Let's move away from that. All right, guys, I got one more. I think that actually... Oh, one real quick thing about that story. This is interesting, okay? Because on March 12th, this is from ABC News, okay? This is back then. This is an article from back in the day, from 2014, okay? That satellite images were posted from a Chinese satellite that showed 3 objects near where potentially this plane disappeared, okay? That is interesting. I've highlighted this here. It says the largest object measured 78 feet by 72 feet, while the smaller objects are 45 by 62 and 42 by 59. So that's not identical. And in that video, those things look identical. I don't know, but maybe not. But that's interesting. So that's what people are pointing to as well. I don't know. What do y'all think? Let me know. Pretty interesting. A lot of great stuff happening. You know, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you guys like this, doing the podcast live like this, if we should do this again, happy to. If this is something people like, again, it's my first live stream podcast, so I don't know. I thought I'd try it out. The other members couldn't make it, so I thought I'd do a live stream. Anyway, let me know in the comments. We'll do this again. And real quick, I'm going to answer a question here from the comments. Ultimate Sunrise John asked, right, but do they know where this footage was taken geographically? I'm not sure. I think some people say this can be proven and some not. Go on Reddit and search for it. You'll find it. And it's all kinds of stuff comes up for it, man. And they go into all the details. Foo Fighters, man. Could be exactly. It's interesting footage. Again, Reddit's surprised me because there's this one thread that just like really digs deep on this. You know, it's got a lot of people behind it, all investigating it, researching it. I think they created its own page for this video. Okay, this video has got people freaked out. It's because of the left-right, the stereoscopic thing. That's why it's unique. I don't know if we've ever seen a UFO video like that. I haven't. I don't recall ever seeing one like this. And that's what's got people, excited about it. So anyway, check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. John, Ultimate Sunrise, thank you so much, man. You made it amazing in the chat for me. Really appreciate that. It was great chatting with you. Hope to see you on the next live stream. I'll do it again. I really had a good time doing this, and we'll grow it, get more people involved. Please give me feedback on how to improve this, how to make it better, and what stories to talk about, that sort of thing. Let me know. All good. So thank you guys again so much. Please check out the rest of the videos on Vetted. And, got some real quick news. We're going to be releasing daily videos now on Vetted. So look for a video every day of the week. We got more people on the team helping, and